Hello and welcome to EDFL Web TV from the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds. My name's Pellizzeri, joined by Adem, Saricaoglu, and our other special guest this week, the Essendon Ford Division 1 Premiership Cup, and that is what is up for grabs on Sunday. Make sure you check out our preview of both grand finals as part of today's EDFL Web TV, and we'll also break down what's going on in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division as we head towards the preliminary final in that competition. Adem, big week in footy before we jump into our first topic on the agenda, which is the Reynolds and Hutchison and Division 2 medal night. What was your biggest talking point out of the weekend just gone?
Abers and Strathmore, Teo, they are really looking the goods now to be your two grand finalists. The Moors are already there, really convincing winners over Avondale Heights, who did come in the third quarter, but the Moors were still too good, and Abers really impressive against Keilor up in Premier. Obviously, we've got two grand finals to discuss this week as well. We had two winners on the weekend to decide those placings as well.
So let's jump into what's coming up at medal night. It is Monday the 8th, so just under a week from today when we're shooting it, or it might be a little bit closer by the time you're watching it. Adem, we've got three divisions and three medalists. Of course, a number of last year's winners are looking at the goods to perhaps go back to back. What are your thoughts on who might be the winners on medal night? I've given you some of the favourites there without letting you know who's actually won. I have to admit, I've got to take a step back. I can't smile or nod or elbow you in the guts if you've got the winners, because quite simply I already know. So I've got to keep it a secret. But from the point of view of someone who has watched the games but doesn't actually know who the winners are, who do you like?
As usual, Teo, I'll be the one to put my neck out here. Look, two of the winners last year, Andrew Brown in Premier and the Hutchison medalist from Division 1 last year, Fort Caruso, obviously both in Premier this year. I reckon they're both really good chances for the Reynolds medal. I've also liked Steve Brewer from Greenvale, like his chances. Gavin Urquhart's been quite good for Airport West, and you know, as far as obviously Strathmore contenders go, Andrew Horn's probably leading the way there as well, and you know, you can never discount, I suppose, Rose and Galera as well from Avondale Heights. So as far as the Reynolds medal goes, I reckon there's some of your good chances there. Well,
there would certainly be a bit of romance to it if we could have a non-midfielder win any one of the three medals, or hey, maybe even the Brownlow. So it'd be great to see Galea and Rose among the votes and perhaps near the top of the leaderboard at the end of the night. All right, Essendon Ford Division 1, as you say, no Fort Caruso to defend his medal in that division because Northern Saints, of course, got promoted. So who do you like among the 8-team competition there? And I think one of the other great things about this division is no thrashings, or only the very rare blowout game, a really competitive season, and that means that I think that we could have a winner coming from the bottom half of the table, or at least a number of contenders coming from positions 5 through to 8, given what a close competition it was.
Yeah, there's obviously some chances there. Trav Julick, obviously, is a class player for Glen Roy. They can make finals this year. He might be a good chance. Oak Park, though, has a lot of contenders as well.
I've got to say, sorry to interrupt you, but he will be ineligible for the medal. He might top the votes, but he has had a suspension during the course of the year. So if he does finish top, he would be unable to take home the Hutchison medal.
I've been thrown under the bus there, Teo, because I was told he might be a contender, but that's okay. We'll chase that one down later on.
It's a year for it. I mean, we've got Fife and in the AFL and Tom Rockcliffe, who might be at the pointy end of the Brownlow count, and they're suspended. So maybe it's the year for it.
Yeah, Oak Park, really good chance as well as in terms of the bottom clubs as well. They've had some really good performances this year. Reece Bloomfield, Roland Hall's been good, but I've really liked Tom German. He's been a class player. He's kicked a lot of goals this year as well as a midfielder, and certainly been their best player, probably win their best and fairest, so he's a really good chance as well. But as far as the finalists go, obviously you never discount Mark D'Souza from Taylor's Lakes. Really like Colin Laurie from Tullamarine. I know he's missed the first two finals. I obviously don't count in this vote count on Monday night, but throughout the home and away, obviously he's a really class player. I like him. And as far as West Coburg is concerned, they've got a number of options that could win it. Abdi Fidax, of course, he's a great player. Moen Abdul-Wahid's been really good this year as well. Tom McMillan, Robert Mullen as well. So certainly a couple of players that did not play finals this year, certainly a chance, but I reckon your winner might be coming from perhaps one of the grand finalists.
And we move on to Division 2. It's only been back for a couple of years, the third tier of EDFL football, and it's been a couple of surprises both times. Tumai Hamza won the medal, one of the shortest midfielders in the division, able to get the medal in season 1, and then the 18-year-old from Jacana, Bo Naim, who's since moved on to Oak Park, he was the winner last season. So Tumai was back in the division this year playing at Roxburgh Park, but probably not enough games to get himself in contention to win it. It means that it's more or less wide open, I reckon. This is probably going to be the most intriguing count of the night as far as actually getting a bit of a read on whether or not it's going to be someone from the 2 runaway top teams or whether there's an outstanding player that's been playing in one of the other 6.
I would be surprised if the winner was to come from a club that didn't make finals. Then again, Jacana didn't make finals last year, and obviously Bonane was able to get the job done there. So looking at Coburg Districts, I reckon the standout there has been Greg O'Shea. He just keeps popping up in the best. He's been a really good player this year for Districts. As far as Keilor Park's concerned, one of their new recruits this year, Judd Darby, did a great job in his first year, coming from the country, obviously, and Ben Ryan as well. We know he's been a good performer for Keilor Park over the years, but as far as your top 2 is concerned, I'll start at East Keilor, obviously. Con Grampus is a class player. He's one of the bigger players, obviously, that can really force his presence on a game of football for the Cougars, and expect him to have a good day on Saturday as well in the grand final, obviously. Vince Madaffrey as well. I know you're a fan of his, Teo. He's a good player. He could be a chance as well, but I reckon the winner might be coming from Roxburgh Park. They've had a great year, and Matt Mickelson's been an absolute revelation this year in the EDFL. He's topped the goal kicking by quite some margin. Been a great sort of medium, smallish sized forward, but certainly knows how to find the sticks, Teo. He's been a great player this year. It's great to watch, and has been a match winner on a number of occasions, so certainly he would have caught the attention of the umpires on quite a few occasions. Also like Carla Sard's on as well. From the times I saw him this year, across half back, he's a really good playmaker, so he might be a good chance for Roxy there too.
And I've been told he is actually a historically good poller by his former coach, Joel Ferguson, who we were actually running into up at Footy Fan Outlet. Just keep watching Web TV. We've got a little bit of something coming up from Footy Fan Outlet at Windy Hill later on.
The acting's not great, Teo, but yeah, stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for that one. All right, next week's Web TV will actually be coming to you from the Moonee Valley Racing Club. We're going to be shooting it with the winners of the medals after the Hutchison and Reynolds and Division 2 medal counts are held. So make sure you check that out. It's coming up next week. Right now, though, we're going to take a short break on EDFL Web TV, and when we return to the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds, we're going to be breaking down the Division 2 Grand Final, the Essendon Ford Division 1 Grand Final, and also talking about Premier Division. We'll start with Premier. Grand Final previews coming up later in the show, but stay with us right here on the EDFL YouTube channel. This is EDFL Web TV coming to you from the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds. We're going to talk about Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division, so Essendon Ford Division 1 trophy, cover your ears. We'll get back to you in a moment. All right, Adam, we had 2 games at the weekend, 2 finals. One of them was a blowout. The other one we saw on Saturday. It was a cracking game. Avondale Heights took the lead in the final term, but Strathmore just had enough in the tank, and Avondale Heights actually finished without a bench. We were wondering why Michael Tanner came back out onto the ground with a pronounced limp. Well, I can tell you it's because it was either that or play with 17. So It really was a destruction derby, so to speak, for Avondale Heights. And in the end, they lose by 20 points, and they've got to go the long way if they want to make it into the Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division Grand Final.
It was a day where almost nothing seemed to go right for Avondale Heights. They were really seriously hit by injury and obviously struggled to run the game out, I suppose, but you know they fought really hard. Strathmore seemed like they were in control of this game, and I was speaking to people at half time, and Strathmore was up by, I can't remember the exact margin, but it was at least a couple of goals. And speaking to people at half time around Windsor Hill was saying it was over.
It was more than 5 goals at half time, and then Avondale, of course, pegged it back in the third quarter.
So the Heights were given basically no chance, but they came back, Teo, and you know it helps when you've got Dean Galea basically taking marks no matter where the ball was sent inside 50. Galea seemed to be on the end of it and had an unbelievable day. And we thought Patrick Rose was pretty quiet, but he still kicked 3 goals. But you know, it was an incredible third quarter by Avondale Heights. I think Galea might have kicked 4 or 5 in that quarter alone. He ended up with 7 or 8 for the day. Most of them came in the third quarter, so everything started going right for Avondale Heights, and they were able to snatch a lead at one stage, but Strathmore steadied and in the last quarter ended up getting the job done. So congratulations to the Moors. They're in another grand final after obviously missing out on finals altogether last year. They can come back in 2 weeks' time and avenge for what happened in 2012 against Greenvale.
Yes, it was 4 in the third for Keilor and 7 for the day in Rose. He marked a lot of the ball 45 metres or 50 metres out, and in the swirling conditions where he'd normally be kicking goals with relative comfort, basically the ball was holding up and it wasn't making the distance. So I think that basically Avondale's midfield didn't quite play Windy Hill as smart as they could have, because they were feeding a lot into the pockets for the two forwards to go after, and really it's when they owned the corridor and straightened up that Keilor was really able to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Talking about that Avondale injury list, as far as losing players for their structure, you couldn't have asked for a worse situation than for Stephen Tiller with a foot or an ankle and Michael Tanner with that knee to go down in the same game, and relatively early as well. It left Taylor Jones one out on Matt Little, and we're talking about a guy who made it to the AFL, has kicked hundreds of goals in the VFL, and even though he's only been a bit part player for Strathmore through the course of the year, the guy has still got it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And unfortunately for Avondale Heights, they just didn't have their main defenders there to close him down, and Matt Little ended up being a match winner at the end of the day. And
the real issue with not having Tanner and Tiller is that they actually work in tandem a lot together as well. We saw that. We saw them combine a couple of times. Obviously, Tanner's a real playmaker. Tiller tends to be a bit more of your lockdown type, I suppose, but together they really combine really well, and you throw in Taylor Jones as well, who had a pretty difficult task, obviously, trying to contain Matt Little, who was on fire. And, obviously, Avondale Heights are going to have their issues down back if they can't get up this weekend.
Now, with that said, it wasn't a four-quarter performance from Strathmore, a bit like the game at Canning Reserve. They had big phases of the game where they weren't in the ascendancy. It's just that when they did get on top, they really executed well. I thought Sam Leach did as many good things as he did things that were a little bit confusing. Matt Knight barely sighted for 2 quarters, and yet when he did get his hands on the ball, we were just up in arms at how good he was, and the way he broke the lines, the way he exploited open space, and his finishing skills on the run. And at the end of the first quarter, when he'd kicked a couple of goals in quick succession to end it, we thought he was going to come right here with the $40 voucher as the player of the day. Little did we know that Avondale Heights would be able to close him out of the game for the next 2 quarters. So while Strathmore may get the win, you can't forget that they were playing against a team that didn't have a bench by the end of the day, and they did actually have long periods of the game where they weren't the team in control of the flow of play. So by no means is the door shut, depending on who wins the preliminary final this weekend. Strathmore will enjoy the chance for a week off, chance to prepare, but they're not over the line yet.
No, they're certainly not, and obviously the 2 clubs that remain in the race, Avondale Heights and Aberfeldie, who we'll talk about in a moment, have their credentials as well, and any of these 3 clubs can get it right in the day and win this flag. It's going to be a really, really competitive 2 weeks coming up with the 2 games that are left in this division. As far as Strathmore's concerned, though, I reckon they're still in the box seat, Teo. It's pretty tough playing consistent 4-quarter footy in finals. It's extremely hard. You've got an opposition that is really locking down on you. The pressure is always 5% up than it is in the regular season. And it's pretty hard to perform at an optimum level in 4 quarters. So they did what they had to do, Teo. They got the win. They won it pretty well. They played some really exciting footy, as Craig Clinic has promised us all year, that they're a pretty attacking team, and they played the right way, and they did that on Saturday against obviously a really potent opposition that can also kick goals on the run. So Strathmore, even though they were pushed at certain stages, they were pushed by a really good football club, and they still managed to come on top. They answered the challenge. That was what was most important about that win.
Now, Sunday's elimination final, I was at the Division 1 preliminary final. You were at the VFL, so we weren't able to see the game live, but you look at the score sheet and you see 11 goals between Kyle Reimers and Tom Hislop, and I think that tells you the story that Keilor, for a team that does actually have a reputation for having some good small defenders and some good tagging midfielders, those 2 just got off the chain and couldn't be stopped. And, well, Kyle Reimers, he's coming good at the right time of the year. He's been our man on Web TV throughout the course of the season, the good stuff and the bad stuff. And I tell you what, it's certainly the good stuff now, and really when Aberfeldie needed and wanted him to produce.
Yeah, it's been a lot of good stuff lately from Kyle Reemers. He's, after having that somewhat indifferent first half of the year, he's really come good in his second half, and he's been quite valuable for Aberfeldie. And look, Tom Hislop as well, since he's come back from injury, he's been really good. So they have a lot of weapons, Aberfeldie, we know that. And in finals footy, I've discussed this before, in finals footy you need match winners, and that's what Aberfeldie has in spades. So no surprise that those two got up and were able to do quite a number on Keilor in the end. I did catch the last quarter of that game, Tao, after my VFL game. I managed to mosey on down the Windy Hill, catch a bit of the last quarter, and it was basically junk time footy, but Keilor really did look spent. The game was obviously over, and Aberfeldie just kept on running. Also, Adem kicked a really nice goal on the run. He snuck forward, and we know he can do that, but he snuck forward, kicked a goal, and that was full of energy. Aberfeldie and Keilor were pretty much shot.
Now, before we talk about the preliminary final, just a quick word on Keilor. I guess we were singing their praises last week for doing what they needed to get into the top four, and the achievement that it has been to make finals after an off-season where I think that the expectations weren't certainly that they would be at this stage of the season. Mick McGuan will go back to the drawing board. He'll have his list of recruits to target. He'll have his wish list, and we'll see if the budget marries up against that, and if he's able to put together a team that he thinks can actually go to that next level and contend for the premiership rather than simply fall into the top four. With the benefit of hindsight, maybe we would have got a better game for the neutral if Greenvale had made the finals, but the reality is Keilor won more games and they deserved to be there. Unfortunately, they got found out by a much better team.
A good, honest team, Keilor, and congratulations on the year they had. Not many people, probably even themselves included, didn't think they would be able to make finals, and they did do that, and beat potentially the Premier on their way through by getting the job done over Avondale Heights in round 18. So well done to Keilor, but just lacking a little bit at the top end, the polish, I reckon, Taya. That's the difference between Keilor and these contenders that remain in it. Keilor, obviously, really good, really honest, really good core of players that have been there for a while now, and obviously have gelled really well under Mick McGuan's guidance. They've got the best player in the competition still, in a lot of people's opinions, in Andrew Brown. So if they can just, if it is possible, look for some class, just to polish off what they've already got there, then perhaps they'll take that next step and be a contender once more in 2015.
So to the prelim final, Adam, who have you got? Coburg City Oval on Saturday. We'll both be at the Division 2 Grand Final. Luke Mortimer, who was here on Web TV last week, will be covering it for the EDFL. We'll probably get him on the phone as a correspondent through the course of the day, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to the winning coach on EDFL Review at full time. But who will that winning coach be, and who do you like to win the game?
Apologies in advance to Saad Ghazi. I ran into him and he wasn't happy that certain people that perhaps not given Avondale Heights too much of a chance against Strathmore on the weekend, but I'm going Aberfeldie again. They just looked way too good for Keilor, obviously, on Saturday, and this side is a premiership side on paper, and Avondale Heights, they are as well, but they're really banged up now. That Saturday took a really heavy toll on them. Strathmore ran them pretty hard, and obviously not having the bench, these boys would have pulled up pretty sore on Sunday, and it's going to be pretty tough to get up. I know Aberfeldie have the one less day to prepare for this game, the 6-day break and all of that, but they're pretty comfortable winners, so conditioning is going to be a big issue in this game, and Aberfeldie have obviously come off the better of those two sides. Despite having the one less day, Aber should win.
Well, I'm going to go with Aberfeldie as well. I think that Rose and Galea would have to combine for 13, if not 14 goals between the two of them. And I think it's going to have to be, bags of 6 or 7 each if they're going to find a way to kick a winning score against this Aberfeldie team, which is just in scintillating form. And I think the injuries speak for themselves as well. Cravino coming back from the broken arm. Cartelli, no guarantee to play, battling injury. Josh Free in trouble. David Stretton, hamstring, he's out. And then the two key defenders who we talked about as well, Tanner and Tiller. So it's a team of walking wounded, Avondale Heights. It's a real shame because at full strength, we've seen them twice during the home and away season, and they've turned on two of the most talked about contests of the Premier Division season. But it's Aberfeldie for me. I think they'll get up as well. You're watching EDFL Web TV from the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds. We are going to flip it up to Essendon Ford to talk about the Essendon Ford Division 1 Grand Final. Stay with us on the EDFL YouTube channel. You're watching EDFL Web TV, and we're back at the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds. Nice little trip up to Essendon Ford. We've still got the Premiership Cup here with us, but we're going to talk about one of its close cousins that looks a little bit similar, and is called the Division 2 Premiership Cup, because on Saturday at Windy Hill, it will be East Keilor taking on Roxburgh Park. Adem, Roxburgh Park got them the first time around. We were there, the cameras were there, but since then, East Keilor has now beaten Roxy twice, and the margin was convincing on both occasions.
Yeah, East Keilor runs into this game a pretty warm favourite, but obviously Roxy, they've been a great story this year, and the fairy tale could continue all the way through, and they might ride off into the sunset and ends up in Essendon Ford Division 1 next year. And obviously the winner of this game on the weekend could well be playing for this cup right here in 2015. So obviously plenty on the line in this game, but East Keilor, obviously they've got a bit more experience than Roxy. Obviously they've played finals in their previous 2 years in Division 2 and they did win it in 2012 and couldn't quite get to the grand final last year, but obviously this year they'll be looking for promotion back up to Essendon Ford Division 1. A couple of players obviously in really good form at the moment. Rob Rutley's playing quite well for the Cougars, as is Brendan Lucas. He's popped up in the best quite a lot all throughout the year. He's probably in contention as well for the medal on Monday night, and all cylinders seem to be going pretty well at the moment for East Keilor. Obviously, the one downside is Dion Hill. Obviously, is quite a young, promising key forward up there. Didn't qualify. Is not eligible to play for East Keilor in the grand final on the weekend, so I'll be without him. I've liked his development. He's played some games at Coburg this year too. I saw him play for Coburg once or twice, and I really like the way he goes about it. So unfortunately, East Keilor won't have Dion Hill at their disposal, but they still have plenty of quality and should have, obviously, the upper hand experience-wise against a very young Roxburgh Park outfit.
And Roxburgh Park, credit to them for holding on in the desperate final stages against Coburg Districts. It was a bit of a low-scoring scrap, and they didn't really have a spearhead to kick to in the forward line. They rotated players through the course of the day, but I think winning that final will be priceless for the young players in that group. They've got so many teenagers, so many guys who are in their early 20s but are in their first senior football finals campaign, and I think that it will help them grow in confidence, because I look at East Keilor, I see a few bigger, hard-bodied inside players. Roxburgh Park, more your quick outside running types. That might come in handy at Windy Hill if they get the momentum, but you've got to get your hands on the ball first out of the centre. And I just think when it comes to the ruck and it comes to the guys around the stoppages, East Keilor might have a bit of an edge there, especially in terms of the experience that you mentioned, but also just in terms of a bit of physical and mental maturity, taking on the pressure of a final situation. So I'm meandering towards telling you that I'm tipping East Keilor in this one, but it wouldn't shock me if Roxburgh Park do get on a big run that could help them win the game or make it a very good game at some stage during the afternoon.
Like I said, it's been a great ride for the Maggies this year, and they've taken it all the way to the final chapter. They've just now got to hope that it does end well and they can get the win over a hot East Keilor side and get their way back up into Div 1.
A very unfortunate situation for Roxburgh Park too. Their two leading goal kickers for the season, Tim Blacker and Matt Mickelson, will both be missing from the game with injury. So you can just wonder what might have been, but also looking ahead to next year for Roxburgh Park, assuming that Paul Derrick and the majority, if not all, of the senior squad are coming back. Even if they do lose, you'd probably have to put them down as the premiership favourites along with the Coburg Districts and the relegated Hadfield for next year. So there will be some light at the end of the tunnel if Roxburgh Park doesn't get the win this weekend, but of course it is still all to play for. Now, don't forget, in the reserves, it's going to be East Keilor against Moonee Valley, and in the under-18s, Moonee Valley versus Roxburgh Park, and that under-18s clash in particular should be a cracker. Two very good under-18 teams. Adem, two radio games also coming up this weekend on Northwest FM 98.9 and streaming on the web, northwestfm.org, and also the EDFL Team app. Get it in your pocket. Get the Team app for iPhone and also Android. Look for the EDFL and then just hit the live radio button, and it's the easiest way to get on to the Northwest FM radio coverage. Saturday, it is the grand final in Division 2. Sunday, the grand final in Division 1. And after the weather we got at Windy Hill last week, footy doesn't get much better than this. AFL, local footy, kicking in the backyard. Really, this is what it's all about. And quite simply, Windy Hill looks an absolute treat in the early spring weather, and it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, very exciting when you wake up on a Monday morning, you look at the calendar and it says September. It's that time of year, and the silverware is up for grabs. So can't wait for this weekend. We've got 2 grand finals to look forward to, and make sure you tune into the broadcast as well, because as we know, Teo, people listen from all over the world to find out what's happening in EDFL footy if they're not in the country.
That's true. Send us a tweet or a Facebook message or get in touch with us on Instagram. All the addresses are up there on your screen. If you can't listen to the game or you can't get along to Windy Hill, follow those social media accounts. They will be updating the scores on a regular basis. Adam, that's it for Web TV this week. We've got Medal Night edition coming up next week, so you and I will be decked out in our best suits. I might, again, need a haircut. You might go for a shave. I don't mean to tell you what to do, but... Medal Night.
I might trim it up, Teo.
It always brings out the best, and we're looking forward to that edition on the EDFL YouTube channel next week. In the meantime, enjoy your weekend of footy. Good luck to all the teams playing in grand finals or in the preliminary finals in Strathmore Community Bank Premier Division. I'm Teo Pellizzeri. He's Adem Saricaoglu, and we'll see you right back here at the Sporting Globe in Moonee Ponds next week.